tours. This in fact has been a tour which has been taken on the 29th of September. It's Friday, it's a beautiful day in Maidstone. I am not on my own. However, because it was such short notice, we are not doing it live. We are actually going to be replaying. So who knows when we're going to be replaying? That's going to be the fun of the tour. However, the person that I am with today is a young Pamela from Banff. And I'm going to be turning the camera in a minute and I'm going to be asking lots of questions. So unfortunately, if you are posting questions in the chat, I won't be able to ask them myself, but hopefully we'll both be in the chat able to answer if you've got any follow-up questions. Okay, so we are at the moment here. You've been here with me before in Maidstone. So you can see we've got our lovely bridge over there. And there you are, you can see down to the River Medway. So in beautiful surroundings. And of course, I'm going to turn to something even more beautiful, which will be Pamela. So Pamela, let me get myself sorted, let myself comfortable, ready for this extravaganza of Pamela conversation. So, Pamela, how are you? How long have you been in England now?
Oh, 4 days.
4 days.
Yeah.
And are you loving it?
I'm loving it. Don't have to work.
You don't have to work. Well, you are now. I'm going to make you work now, Pamela. I'm going to make you work. So we're going to go way back into the life of Pamela. So we're going to first start off with, obviously you haven't got a British accent. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Johannesburg in South Africa.
And was your mummy and daddy also from South African?
My dad was from Canada, and my mum's family is all from England. So Bedford and Yorkshire.
Okay, that is weird. My mum's husband is from Bedford, so that's very, very close. So why then are they in South Africa when you are being brought into the world?
My father's father was a conductor for Paramount Pictures, and he was about 15 when they went to South Africa.
15?
And yeah, so his father conducted the orchestra for the movies back in the day when there was no sound. All the different Paramount Pictures movies. And my mother's father was with the British Army, and they were stationed in South Africa. And her brother was born here, but my mum was born in South Africa.
Wow.
And then they came back to England, so she doesn't remember the very early part of her life, but she does remember a little bit about England.
Well, who remembers the early part of their life?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they went back with another stint in South Africa, and he loved it there so much he talked the family into staying.
And how long then did you stay? So you're born, you're a little baby?
I was born in Johannesburg, yeah.
And what's interesting, Pamela, is as you know, we set this up as an unlisted tour that we were going to play back. Somehow, we've got people in the chat. So obviously, our technical foray has obviously failed.
Yes, yeah.
So this is actually a tour that we will be showing later on. This was meant to be a private YouTube, and obviously I haven't set it up properly. Because Ginny's with us. Hi, Ginny, a fellow guide.
Hello, Ginny.
Oh, well, so there you are. So, Ginny, this will be replayed at a later date. And in fact, there looks like somebody else on there. So, but anyway, without further ado, I will continue. So, obviously, how long then are you in South Africa for?
I lived in South Africa until I was 32, which was 30 years ago. So I came here 30 years ago. Well, came to Canada 36 years.
I was going to say, you didn't come to... You couldn't
No, I'm still in Canada. I'm still on Canada time too. I start getting tired at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, don't we all? It is indeed 4 o'clock, so you've got another 55 minutes. 4:05, you've got another 55 minutes till you get tired then. So obviously South Africa, completely different to Canada and indeed the UK. So what made you think, do you know what? I'm gonna move to Canada?
You're going to move to Canada.
No, not
yeah,
me.
I'm going.
No,
How did I decide it? I decided because things have been happening. Like a friend of mine was blown up in a bomb with the terrorism that was happening in South Africa in the early 90s. And then a friend of mine was gang raped by 19 black people. And I just decided I'm out of here. I'd been to Canada. I knew I loved it. And so I jumped on a plane, sold everything and jumped on a plane and went to Canada.
Wow, I mean, firstly, terrible stories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty shocking. And so why Canada then?
My father was born in Winnipeg, so I knew I couldn't get into Britain because they only took your father's, in those days, I don't know if it's changed, but in those days they only took your father's place of birth to be able to claim. So I couldn't
Britain
claim
said
through. No, I couldn't claim with my mother.
Pamela away.
Yeah, both sets of grandparents were British, but that didn't count. And so I decided Canada. I loved Canada. But of course, I had to cope with the freezing cold and all that.
Yeah, because the weather then, I'm just putting on my tripod to see whether or not that will make it easier to perch on my knee. So bear with me, viewers, while you're now on my knee. Let's see if that that makes things any better. So the weather, South Africa, Canada. Could you have chosen polar opposites if you'd tried?
Well, Johannesburg's really high in altitude, right? So in the winter it gets cold.
How cold?
-10.
Okay, that's quite cold. How hot does it get?
Not that hot either because it's so high. So these days the temperature is getting higher, but when I was growing up it never got over 30.
And now in Canada, how cold can it get?
Generally around -40 would be the coldest,
Yeah.
and the hottest for Banff is about +38.
So -40. That's kind of like what you set your fridge at.
-6.
Exactly. What you set your freezer at. I mean, that's just ridiculously cold, isn't it? You chose to live.
Yep, and I knew because I'd been there on a visit in the winter, so I knew how cold it could get. But in fact,
I'm an ice queen. Let's do it. You thought.
In fact, in Saskatoon, in the February that I was trying to get my citizenship of 94. Yeah, that was 94, February 94. It got to -62 the day that I went for my citizenship interview.
Do you think that was a sign?
That's what got me the citizenship. If I arrived
they
were so impressed that I had actually gone to the interview because nobody else did. Everybody else stayed at home.
I'm amazed they did.
And the lady was there, and I ran in because I was late because it was so cold. I was going from store to store to store because my eyes were freezing.
That's pretty hideous.
And got there late, like a couple of minutes late, and I roared up to the counter and I went, I hope I'm not too late for my appointment. She looks around the room and she goes, do you see anybody else here? And I had it 3 weeks. I had that piece of paper 3 weeks later. It's actually a little plastic card about that size. But
and so your passport, is it a Canadian passport?
Canadian passport, yeah.
And do you have a South African passport?
I do have a South African passport, but South Africa keeps deciding maybe not to be to allow dual citizenship, and maybe to. So every now and again, my passport becomes obsolete, and I think the last time that happened, I decided, okay, I'll get one more, and if that happens again, I won't get another one.
And what would be the benefit of keeping that South African passport when you go home?
If I ever go back, if I ever decided to go back, I wouldn't have to reapply for South African citizenship, right? But
you mean to live or to visit?
To live, but not to visit. I use my Canadian passport to visit.
So, do you think you ever would go back?
If it got better, but it doesn't seem to be getting better. It seems to be getting worse.
So, okay, so you're at, so remind me again, you left South Africa at what age?
32.
Right, so you've grown up in South Africa, you've studied. What kind of education did you have?
I had high school at Roosevelt High School, and then I did a secretarial course, and then I did a university, a half a degree. I didn't actually finish it, but that was in geology.
Did you get half a certificate then
No.
in effort?
No,
you don't,
no.
do you?
Mm-mm.
Shocking that really.
No,
Pamela.
yeah, but I just at that point I was deciding to go to Canada, right? So I never finished it, and I was going to try a geology.
So you got a geo, but you missed out on the lology.
Yeah. I decided to try and finish that degree here in Canada, right, at Calgary University, and they said they didn't give any credit for what I'd done already. So I would have had to start all over again, and I didn't want to do that.
So geology, obviously, you like a rock.
Yeah, I like rocks.
Does that come up if you were dating? Would that be one of your top I like rocks, I do.
I like rocks, yeah.
And so what was your first job?
My first job was as a secretary in the stock exchange in Johannesburg, just when the gold price went to $900 an ounce, and it was crazy. I actually was there for I think about 6 weeks, and then I'd had enough. My stress level was like through the sky.
And what did you have to do?
I was writing out share certificates, and if you made a mistake, it was a big deal. And in those days, you did it by hand. It wasn't all printed like they are today.
So, yeah, you make a mistake. Did you make a lot of mistakes?
Never made a mistake. But at the stress of maybe you make a mistake and you cost someone a fortune, or you have to pay it in.
Yeah.
You know.
Was the pay good? What was it?
Yeah, I don't remember actually. I think it was about $200 a month or something.
Yeah, which of course.
Which in those days was probably reasonably okay.
So what did you do after that? Have you decided no, not for me?
I got a job at the hospital in Johannesburg doing photography.
I was going to say, please don't tell me you were, out there giving heart transplants or anything.
But I took photographs of operations, open heart surgery, eye operations, the mortuary, whatever they needed, and a lot of it was tedious stuff, taking pictures for lectures out of books and pictures of like before and after case histories of plastic surgery, and a lot of it was in the darkroom, printing stuff.
So how did you go from being a secretary to taking photographs of open heart surgery?
I just got a job and they taught me. It was like a apprenticeship on the job.
And did the patients know that they were going to have their photo taken, or were these like, don't tell anyone,
some of them did, some of them didn't. I don't know exactly what the deal was with the operations. Obviously the patient's unconscious.
So they couldn't give consent.
Whether they did or not, I never had to sign consent forms like a witness or anything. Back in the day, they probably could just do it.
Just do it. And why were you taking photographs in the mortuary, I've got to ask?
Again, for legal, because the plastic surgery before and after is for legal purposes.
I get that, but for dead people?
Recording each process of the postmortem.
Oh, I see. Not like
I did a few of them, and then I made sure I was in the darkroom every time I saw the guy from the morgue coming in to book a.
That's kind of like you've got to have a really strong stomach.
I'll tell you a story.
Oh, please.
The one time I got to the mortuary with my camera, and there was the mortician having his lunch on the slab.
Oh. Well, that's. I mean, I guess you get used.
You get used to it.
So you're not that easy to shock. I mean, I'll be honest. What was the worst operation? For me, it would have been the eyes.
It didn't bother me, but it would bother me now.
Right.
I can't even see my own blood anymore.
Yeah, but that's now because your eyes have gone, isn't it? So you then, how long are you in the photography?
I did the medical photography from 1981 to 1986.
5 years.
And then I switched, because it was run by the university. The department was run by the Witwatersrand University, and I decided I'd had enough. I often saw children that had cleft palates and things like that for plastic surgery, and there was one case with a kid that had been mauled by 3 pit bulls, and they were trying to patch this poor kid up, and it broke my heart. So I decided I didn't want to see any more kids that had something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And so I switched to the department, the biology department, and did photographs of research on animals, which also was not that great.
I'll be honest, that's even worse for me.
It was, but a lot of it was research on, like, for instance, there was a guy that was studying frogs, and we'd go out into the back of beyond, into a swamp in waders, and take pictures of frogs at night. And
did he say hop to it?
yeah. Except that sometimes there were other things in the water, like the one time there was a black mamba in the water with me, so very poisonous snake.
Yeah.
And I nearly had a fit and got water down my waders, and got the picture though of the mamba eating the frog.
That's again, I mean, you don't choose the easy career path,
No.
do you? So okay, so now we're on. Hi Cheryl, so just to let you know, this isn't actually a tour that should be actually being broadcast. This should be a private tour. It will be broadcast later on. So hello anybody who's watching, but we'll be doing it as a proper tour later on. I'm not going to say that again because everybody then who actually watches it later on will be getting confused. So so you've had your encounter with the snake and the frog, and then you think, what next?
At that point, it was getting really hairy in Johannesburg, and I was starting to think about leaving. And then a friend of mine sort of had the encounter with 19 black people. She was dragged out of her car at a gas station and dragged into a township called Alexandra and gang raped by 19 blacks. And the only reason she survived was the guy at the gas station called the police. And they somehow managed to find her and saved her life. But that finished me, absolutely finished me, and it was time to leave. And my father was Canadian, and I came, I went to Canada. And
then Canada opened the doors, and in you go, and suddenly Pam's in Canada. And you didn't start off in Banff, did you?
No, I started off in Saskatoon, actually. That's where I was trying to get my citizenship, and I tried to get a job at the University of Saskatoon. I applied for a job at the university in Vancouver, but it was a bad time. It was like a recession, and I couldn't even get a job at McDonald's. So eventually I found a job at a youth hostel, $5 an hour, working at the youth hostel in Jasper in Alberta. And
what did you do in the youth hostel?
Just cleaning and front desk. No photos. I did some guiding. I did take some people up a mountain a couple of times. There's a mountain right behind the hostel, and one of those groups of people, there were 3 of them, they actually went down to town the next day and went on a tour and was saying, oh, you should have seen, we went on up the mountain with this lady and blah, 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 blah. And next thing this guy phones me and says, do you want a job? And that's how I became a tour guide.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
so because
that's how I
you've impressed them so much. And can I ask the obvious question, when you're up the mountain, are you pointing out the rocks?
I am, of course. Yeah,
see? So
although I know more about geology now than I did when I was doing that particular tour, but I knew the flowers, I knew the trees. I'd already learnt all that.
By their names?
By their names, yeah.
This is
And there's not as many animals or trees in Canada as there are, or certainly in the Rockies, as there are in South Africa. So it wasn't that hard compared to the flora in South Africa.
And how did you feel as obviously a South African coming into another country? Did you feel that you were welcome? Do you feel that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, the Canadians are the most friendly people I've ever met. Seriously. Present people excluded.
Present people, yeah, of course. I mean, this is Britain. You're amazing. What can I say? And did you think this feels like it could be home?
Yes.
But at that point in time, are you actually looking for a forever home?
Yes.
Or you are, so you're not just thinking, I'll go here and then maybe go somewhere else. You're looking for, I want somewhere to, plant my feet.
I had an idea that when I first went, the plan was to go to Vancouver. But in terms of actually going to Vancouver, it's too expensive. It's very expensive to live in Vancouver. It's like London.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, it's more expensive than London, from what I understand. But
then I assume the salaries are probably higher. Is
no.
it? Or no?
In fact, I actually did go to Vancouver when my partner and I parted company. And I went to Vancouver and I was there precisely 2.5 months. And I was just seeing the money disappearing and I wasn't earning that much.
That's a magic trick, it's making your money disappear.
Oh, yeah. And I wasn't spending money. It was just like every time I turned around, they wanted $300 for healthcare and they wanted $300 for the new license on my car, and et cetera, et cetera. It was always $300. I don't know where that came from, but anyway. So I just didn't have that kind of money, and I knew that I could get a job in a heartbeat back in Banff. So
it's strange actually, Pam, because I'm not sure if I actually told you, but my fee for actually doing this interview is, funnily enough, it's $300.
Yeah, there you go.
There's just something in the water there.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, yeah, Vancouver isn't for me.
No.
Let's go to Banff, because my impression of Banff was that it's incredibly expensive.
Not as expensive as Banff, as Vancouver.
Wow.
No. I'll tell you that the average apartment in Vancouver is in excess of $3,000 a month, and that is you couldn't even have a partner in that, just about. They are so tiny, and
so compared to Banff, what does that?
A tiny apartment like that, you might pay anywhere between, for one bedroom apartment, anywhere between $1,500 and $1,800. Yes, and I earned, when I left Banff, I was earning $20 an hour, and when I got to Vancouver, I only earned $12.
Yeah, so that's...
And it's just impossible.
So then you've decided, and why Banff as opposed to anywhere else in Canada?
I knew people there, and... when I first went to Banff, it was because of work. There wasn't enough work in Jasper, where I originally landed. So after 5 years, I was sick of being on unemployment in the winter. Banff, there's year-round employment.
And you got unemployment even though you're actually not a native Canadian.
But I had my citizenship already.
Right. Okay, I'm with you. Mm-hmm. So and Banff, obviously, I mean, what is the tourism like? Obviously, it's somewhere
huge, and it's jumped since COVID. I believe before COVID it was about 4 million, and I believe it's somewhere between 5 and 6 million per year now.
Are these the people that are coming to visit?
Yeah.
And can it actually sustain that level of tourism?
The town itself, I don't actually think so. There's too many people. There's too many cars. There's too many people that are being careless. Just throwing garbage. We never had a garbage problem before, so it's unfortunate. But I think things have changed somehow.
And do you think, because obviously you're looking at Venice now, they're actually introducing kind of like a tourist tax because they worry that tourists are actually damaging the kind of area of Venice. Do you think Banff could end up going down that road?
Ooh, I don't know.
It's kind of all up for debate, depending how many.
It's a national park, so whether they would, they already charge them an entrance fee. To charge them a tax on top of that, the entrance fee to the national park is pretty hefty.
And how much is that then?
I actually wouldn't know, but I know at one point it was $80 per car.
And so what is that then? So you're paying $80 to do what?
To go into the park and look around.
Right.
No matter whether you are going to a lake and just having a picnic, or whether you are going to actually stay in a hotel, you still have to pay that entrance fee.
And that covers how long?
That would be per day until I think it's 7 days. And then after that you have an annual pass.
So hold on, if you're going to stay in Banff for a week, you have to pay $80 a day per day.
Yeah, so plus your hotel, plus everything else. So to put another tax on for the town, it's not going to happen.
So what happens though if they're coming in coaches? Or
They would have paid for that in some way or other.
Right.
They might not have known that they were paying it, but they would have come in. It's absorbed into the package deal that they bought, or whatever.
And if a friend is picking you up, so if I came to Banff and you're picking me up, how am I paying that tax?
If you're just coming in as a passenger, you might get away with it. But if you had if you rented a car at the Calgary airport, you would have to pay that when you came in.
So so we've all got our tips now. And that'll be the delightful sound of a
baby.
Baby crying. Mm-hmm. That sounds like it's probably a hungry baby, if I'm honest.
No, not a happy camper.
No. So okay then. So what do you do now? Is guiding something you do all the time?
I work 3 days, 3 12-hour days in the bookshop in Lake Louise since COVID. Actually, I started that before COVID, but it was just a temporary job at that point, whereas now it seems to be full-time.
And why was that only temporary before?
Because I was going to South Africa and I needed a job between October and the beginning of March.
So it was your winter job?
It was a stopgap job until I went to South Africa for 2 months. And then COVID, of course, that was 2020. I went to South Africa on the 1st of March. I was supposed to come back the end of April. And of course, that didn't happen. So I only had 3 weeks of my 8-week holiday.
So you're only in South Africa for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And you managed to get home then?
I did. I snuck into the country on the last plane. I left South Africa on the last plane and I caught the last plane from Amsterdam to Calgary.
So you're working 36 hours over 3 days in the bookshop. And then what else are you doing?
I'm doing all sorts of things. Whoever phones, I do their tour. And I was very lucky this summer to pick up a contract with National Geographic. So.
Which is a massive coup, really, isn't it? Because that's obviously...
Next year, it'll be a good backup. I won't have to work so hard.
Well, do you think that's true, or do you just think you'll do that?
No, I'll probably still work my tail off. It's just my nature.
And what's your favourite tour?
Ooh, I like walking tours and just putzing,
But going where?
Anywhere where I can show them people the flowers and tell them about the bears. But I do bus tours as well. I drive the bus and give the tour. I step on with another person driving the tour. So I do all sorts of different things. And of course I do virtual tours too.
Bells. Don't know if you guys can hear that. We're by All Saints Church in Maidstone. And there's your bings and your bongs for you. So have you seen a bear?
I've seen lots of bears and sometimes a little bit too close for comfort.
And that's kind of what I meant. I mean, have you seen a bear up close?
Yeah, from about 20 feet.
And what was the bear doing?
Eating berries and not paying attention to me, and I was busy walking my dog and didn't see the bear behind the bush, and suddenly he stood up and I saw the bear and the dog pulled me and went, "We've got to go, Mum." And
the dog was kind of like, "I don't like that bear." I mean, the dog doesn't speak like that, to be clear, everybody. The dog actually went, "Mommy, I do like the bear."
My dog just pulled.
What kind of dog was it?
He was a border collie mixed with an Australian cattle dog.
So, and how quickly did you leave? You do the sensible thing?
Very casually, and the bear took off in the other direction.
Is that because it saw you? You think it was scared of the Pamela? Do you think?
I think bears just want to avoid us for the most part. Yeah.
And do you always carry bear spray?
Always. Except when I forget. Well, you know what I did? I was doing actually anyone on there who did the tour up to the Larches a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, I can't even remember the time, but about 10 days ago, I think. And I dumped my bag and I was doing the tour and I actually wandered away from my bag. And of course, where was my bear spray? On the back of my bag, right? And I suddenly went, you know what? Someone said something about, do you have your bear spray? And I went, no. So we sort of wandered back to where my bag was because that is bear country where I was.
Yeah.
Didn't see one, but it could have been there.
It's interesting that you've moved from quite a dangerous place with people, and now you kind of moved to somewhere with a dangerous place with bears.
Oh, you know what? We're not on their menu. You have to really give them a fright.
I think a hamburger is actually, I've seen that on the menu at some bear restaurants.
A hamburger.
Yeah, it's actually out of stock so far, but I know it says coming soon. So how, I mean, you obviously, when you first got there, you were climbing mountains. You still climb mountains?
Yes.
You find it more of a struggle, or are you still bouncing up them?
I think I'm slowing down, let's put it that way. I'm still climbing mountains, but not quite so fast.
I mean, I'll be honest, that's really impressive, because when I get to a molehill, I have to exert myself. So the fact that you're still bounding up mountains is pretty cool. And how did you, obviously COVID massively impacted tourism.
Yeah.
How did you manage?
Banff was 85% unemployed.
Yeah.
Only the people that worked in banks and grocery stores and things like that were still working. And the Canadian government gave everybody $2,000 a month, which covered some things, but it didn't cover everything. So you just have to borrow money.
Would you be getting $4,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that.
But I wasn't.
No, I know you weren't. But what I'm just thinking is, I suppose that's the time you needed a fake partner, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that must have been quite terrifying, because those levels of unemployment are pretty stark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lake Louise was shut down. They actually closed the road up to the lake. So everyone that lived in Lake Louise was cut off. And so everyone in Banff, you could go to the doctor. That was the only reason you were allowed to go out of town, either Lake Louise or Banff. But there was an upside too. There was no one there. It was like we could go for a walk along the lake at Vermilion Lakes and not see a single soul. And the animals realized that too. So I got to watch muskrats and beavers and stuff that I'd never actually, because they were scared of people, they would duck as soon as they saw someone. Yeah. Now there was no one there. You could just sit quietly and they'd start puttering around as soon as they didn't realize they couldn't see you. Or they didn't notice you.
You quietly there.
So it was, and people that lived in Lake Louise, obviously we couldn't go to Lake Louise either. People that lived in Lake Louise said it was absolutely magic to have that lake with no one.
No one on it. And hopefully it will never be repeated again.
Hopefully it will never be repeated, but yeah.
For that time it was. And where would you have gone? Where's your local hospital? So where were the COVID cases
there was no COVID. They cut us off, so we couldn't get COVID.
Right.
Once they started opening things up a little bit, then we started seeing COVID cases. But that was, months away. It was probably 5 months before they started opening Banff up at all.
And then, because obviously you'd kind of been secluded and cocooned away, was that meaning that then...
the numbers got quite high at one point, and of course it's a little cottage hospital really. It's not... That's why they shut us down. They wanted to see where that was all going. But, most people had already had it. And then if we did have a really bad case, they could whip them off to another hospital, which was not going to be inundated like ours would have been.
Yeah. So now how's tourism obviously booming?
Absolutely gone off the scale.
Do you find it difficult to say no?
I actually learned to say no at probably at the 10 years ago mark. I used to always, if I had a day off and someone asked me to do a tour, I'd go, yeah. And now I just say, no, I'm busy, sorry. Unless it's something that, like, someone is really, really, really desperate, can't find anyone anyway, then I might think about it. But
you make Pam time.
Yeah.
And when did your dog pass?
Oh, a long time ago. He's been gone about... It was just before I parted company with Larry, so that's 8 years ago. So it was probably about 8.5.
Do you think you'll get another dog?
I would like to, but of course... now I'm also got itchy feet, so having a dog and traveling and I'm living on my own, that's not going to work very well. No. It's not fair to the dog. So itchy feet as in you want to travel, or that you've got some sort of skin disease? No, I'm wanting to really go and meet all of you guys, right? Because we've made friends online. We want to visit.
So obviously you're in England now. And you've been staying in London and Surrey. You've come down to Kent. You've come down to, obviously, the county town of Kent, Maidstone, and been with me today. You're going to go back to London. You've got a community meet-up tomorrow, all being well, but you picked the day of the train strike, which was
Unfortunate.
Not the greatest. That will, of course, happen by the time this is screened. And then you're going up to York. I know it's just to see Humphrey. You can say what you like to John.
It's just to see Humphrey. Of course, I've got to meet as many people as I can, right?
And so, which other countries? So obviously that's England, which is fabulous.
I want to go to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And I want to go to Portugal. And I want to go to Italy.
Right. And who do you want to see in Amsterdam? Who are you meeting up with?
Definitely with Mark and Lee. Probably Stefan. And also one of the ex-Hago guides in Porto. I can't remember her name now. Isn't that just great?
Well, I won't mention it because is it in case I get the wrong one. So I'm thinking of the one with the C.
With the dogs, the two dogs, and her mum was often on the tours. No, you don't remember her. That is a long time ago.
So if we then move on to obviously Italy.
Italy, I want to go to Pompeii and Raphael. And if I can find them, the two in Rome that used to do all the Mickey and I can't remember names today. What's with that?
It's the excitement of seeing me. I think,
that's it. Yeah, it's all the tiredness.
It's the jet lag. I mean, Italy is amazing.
Yeah.
I went to Amsterdam so many years ago now. But obviously I should really go along at some point and annoy the Amsterdamian guides. And then, Italy, obviously, always gorgeous to visit.
I've never managed to get to Italy. Every single time I've gone to Europe, the trains have been on strike.
Well,
and funny, talking about trains on strike, hopefully I get to York.
Well, I'll be honest, I just want to know when you're travelling again to know when the trains are going to be on strike. Because it seems like there's a thing.
Yeah. Italy, I've been to Switzerland twice, and I was going to drop down into Italy both times, and both times the trains in Italy went on strike.
Well, there's a sign there somewhere, isn't there? So we've got 7 minutes left. So what else do we want to talk about? So how many times have you been to England?
Oh gosh, lots of times. I actually came here in 1981. I was here for about a month. And then 1983, I was here for 6 months, and I hitchhiked all around Britain. The only part I ran out of time. I didn't really see East Anglia. But then I came back so that was 81, 83. Then in 93, I moved to Canada. And on the way to Canada, I spent a month in England.
Nice.
And that time I did go to East Anglia, but I didn't see a lot of it. I just saw some of it.
And have you been to Kent before?
I have not. I've been into Kent. But like just onto the like over the border and back again into Sussex, right? So, and Surrey.
You've been missing a treat.
I have, obviously.
And how have you liked Maidstone today?
It's gorgeous. I love. Well, I mean, look behind you. There is the cathedral and the Bishop's Palace and the whole
All Saints Church and the Archbishop's Palace.
That's it. Yeah, I'll get it right. I've only just been here, right?
Before I get people coming down, I want to see the cathedral in Maidstone. Well, that'll be the Banff guide, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the same as the cathedral in Banff, is it?
Yeah, we've got a little English. Well, we've got a few. Actually, we've got a lot of churches. There's Catholic, there's Anglican, there's Seventh-day Adventist, there's a Mormon church, there's a United Church, there's a Presbyterian church.
So you've got a lot of churches.
Yeah, but they're little churches, they're not big.
Well, what's the population of Banff?
8,500.
Yeah, so not many people. And how many people, do you know a lot of the locals now because of the job you do?
I worked for the museum. That's where I met a lot of the locals that are there that are older tend to keep to themselves. They've almost got like a little community behind the scenes because you actually have to have that defense against all these youngsters that come to town. You make friends with them, and then 3 months later they're gone.
Yeah.
And you put out so much energy making friends that you eventually go, I can't do this anymore. And you back off from
because
making
your energy is drained from...
You're literally putting out so much energy making friends, and then they go away and you never see them again. They've gone back to Australia, or they've gone back to Germany, or wherever they've come from, right? So it's a multinational workforce, and there's a lot of people, like for instance South Africa. I think half the doctors in the Bow Valley, which is Canmore, Banff and Lake Louise, half the doctors are South African. There are a number of families that are South African in Canmore particularly, but Banff as well. The pharmacist is South African in the one pharmacy. And in Calgary there's 50,000 South Africans.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a draw.
Lot of people.
Do you think you started that trend?
No, it was already there. People have been leaving South Africa in droves for years. There's a lot of South Africans that live here in England too, right? So.
Well, yeah, although I've only met one.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obviously hiding out. Actually, that's probably not true.
My sisters, the people that live across the road from my sister in Hersham, they are South African. Yeah, so it's, just...
And then, so obviously you're still doing the guiding. How long do you think you'll keep doing that for?
I think I told you, until I'm pushing up daisies, probably. It's part of my nature is to help people. I might not be doing officially taking people on tour eventually, but certainly for the moment.
And that is seasonal then, are you actually doing tours?
I do tours in the winter, and of course the virtual tours, I do them all year round. So.
And how did you find, obviously, with the closure of Hago, how did that impact you?
Emotionally it did, because here's all our little community about to dissolve. Fortunately, for the most part, it hasn't, but a lot of people have fallen off, right? So, and that's to be expected, difficult. It's a difficult time.
From an income perspective for your tours, has it impacted you?
No, because I'm actually making a little bit more than I was making on Hago.
And that's because of the...
because of not parting company with some of the money, right? But on the other hand, I'm not getting as many people coming on my tours.
Yeah.
So
basically you have got an income loss, it's just the fact is that you're not paying out the percentage.
Yeah.
And you're obviously using Facebook Live at the moment, I know. And how are you finding that from a technical point of view?
Point of view, pretty good. But a lot of people don't want to be coming on a tour on Facebook, so I'm going to have to get the YouTube story going.
Got to get the YouTube sorted out. So we're going to have, what are we calling it? Going to call it Pam's Adventures. Pam's Adventures. We need something really natty, don't we?
We'll come up with something.
Yeah. We'll go. And obviously you've brought your gimbal with you now, but we've got the whole issue that you can't use anything other than Wi-Fi, so you're very restricted in doing any tours. But you could take some videos and show them later. But again, that might be stretching the Pamela technological. We did manage to get you sorted on the Wi-Fi on the train.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, that was a great thing.
And it was easy, but someone did actually. I actually had a railway person show me how to do it.
I'll be honest, it was only easy because somebody showed you how to do it.
That's right.
Yeah. That's just cheating. I had the conversation.
Well, at least I knew from you that there was Wi-Fi.
Well, exactly. We had the conversation. So Pam's coming down. Right. Okay. These are the two trains. I don't have. I can't text you. So basically, I'll just meet you at the train station. I'm like, Pam, you do know that there is Wi-Fi on the trains. Is there now? So this is the most enlightening thing for Pam. We're getting her into the 21st century slowly. But I mean, it's been an absolute joy to show you around Maidstone. I am just shocked how quickly it's gone. And I would say that the length of time we spent organising this meetup has probably been the length of time.
That's probably a record.
a record time of
when are we going to be able to do this? I've got to check with my sister first.
Yeah. And actually, then I can't do that date. Oh yeah, I forgot. And also, sorry, I'm sent you a message which was meant for somebody completely different. But that's fine, because I'm just like, this is Pam. You know what? There are some people that you just know it's going to be crazy.
It's not going to be organised. No, if you saw my sister now, my sister is the most organised person you could ever imagine. She can do 20 things in 3 hours.
Yeah.
I can't.
But, at the end of the day, she was born first. So I always say, with the maternal side, my sister was born first, and she took that all.
Yes.
She wanted about 4 children. She was a childminder. I came out and I was like, well, it's cats for me.
Yeah, it's cats for me. Yeah. In my case, it's dogs.
Yeah. Well, I know, because you've already had interrupted one little fluffy hound. I was encouraging the owner to see if it would savage Pam, but unfortunately, it was a ridiculously cute little Cocker Spaniel, I think, and it was like, no.
I'm going to lick you to death.
It was just on the old lick offensive, which, which actually probably is a good thing, because that would involve, just...
There's too much paperwork involved with that.
Too much paperwork. I'd have to driven you to the hospital. It would have just been more drama. Well, I'm afraid, guys, this is it. As I say, not entirely sure... what date I've decided to air this. This was set up as a private YouTube tour, and interestingly enough, it's obviously been going out publicly, but because of the time and the no notice, only a few people have popped in. If people have popped in, what I would say is, obviously I'm going to be sharing any tips with Pam that are received either now or when we actually do an official. I'll need to do it when you're home, I'm guessing, really, so that you can actually be in the chat, because otherwise you'll be going, but I don't have Wi-Fi. So
I'll have to be on the train.
Exactly. So if you could do that now. I think that's a great thing. We're going to stick Pam on the train all over so she gets Wi-Fi. It's the way forward. So if you can make a note on your donation that obviously it says for Pam Tour. I've got Buy Me a Coffee, and I've got PayPal, which I haven't posted yet, because obviously I didn't think anybody was going to be seeing the tour. What I will do is make this tour private afterwards. So I will put a post in Together Virtually later today, and in Leonie on Tour, if you did want to make any of those donations. So thank you to those who are watching at the moment. I'm going to turn the camera around so that it's showing myself as well. So and we'll have a quick selfie. So it's been absolutely wonderful, Pam.
Yeah, it's been great to be with you all.
And now, let's face it, I don't think we're going to make that train you wanted to make at the very start. Not unless you run. Mm-hmm. And that's probably
what time was it?
I don't know, but we probably need to have that conversation off air. Because that's probably not the most scintillating tour that they've ever had, us talking about trains and the fact you're just about to miss it. So thank you very much for joining us. Do catch Pam, and how do they actually catch your tours then? What do they need to Google? Obviously in Facebook, they need to look for...
Facebook, it's Pamela Manning.
Pamela Manning. And you can indeed find her in Together Virtually. So lots of love to you all. I hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.